Hi everyone, how are you? So I promised yesterday that I would come in and help with engaging your TVAs because there has been a whole lot of questions about this in the last week or so, and I know we've got so many new members, so I thought we'd start fresh and do a whole new video on this. So first up, I just wanted to make sure that everybody read the email I sent out today. It is so important, like breathing, I know it seems like it comes naturally, but breathing correctly is what is going to help you heal your diastasis. If you are not getting a full 360-degree breathing structure happening, and you're not getting that back body expansion, then your diastasis is not going to heal, okay? So you will have seen from that video how important your hip flexors are, why I keep going on and on and on about the hip flexors, why I did a whole program just on hip flexors for you guys. But breathing is so important too. So the TVAs, this is really interesting. So your TVAs are those muscles, so they wrap around here. They're like a little corset. And they are what support your back. So if you have any back issues, your TVAs should be supporting them. Now, when your core does not do its job, then other muscles start doing it. So your hip flexors, your psoas or your TFL will start supporting your back. When they start supporting your back, they get tight. When they get tight, you get this arch in your back. And now, depending on which of your hip flexor muscles are getting more tight will depend on whether you've got this high arch point or a lower arch point. If you've got a lower arch point, that's causing your anterior pelvic tilt, so that tilt that's coming this way with that butt sticking out and that low back arch, and that's putting a whole lot of pressure here on your diastasis in the lower part. If you've got this high hinge point up here, that's because you're not getting a full 360-degree breathing. That means your upper back's really tight. So you're not breathing. When you breathe, you're not getting that back expansion as well. And that's going to be causing issues with your rib alignment, which will cause issues with your upper diastasis. Now, as part of the bonus that I'm going to be going through in the Belly Blast program, we are going to go through exercises to hit all of those issues. We're going to be talking about how important breathing is, how to work for your rib mobility, how to loosen all of this up, how to get rid of that high back hinge point, how to help your anterior pelvic tilt or your posterior, because glutes are so important too. You would have seen that, right? When your glutes don't work, your pelvic floor suffers because your pelvic floor has to tighten because your glutes aren't doing its job. So it can become such a mess, and I really wanted to take people step by step through all of this. Anyway, so today, TVAs, because these are so important with your diastasis, and we need to be able to work them in isolation, which is what we are doing with the sets of 10. So you're meant to be doing 3 sets of 10, 3 to 4 times a day. So that's like 90 to 120, just engaging, relaxing, engaging, relaxing. So that's using your TVAs, your transverse abdominis, in isolation, okay? But you also need to learn to use them in combination with your breathing and with heel slides and for lifting. So all of those things. So we start with doing them in isolation, and then once you can engage them, then you need to move to being able to do them with a breath, with exercise, with lifting. And that's when you're starting to get your posture right, and everything else will start coming along as well. So in isolation, and this is where a lot of people have been, I'm not sure if I'm engaging correctly. So let's go through this. So I might just move this down a little bit so I make sure that you can see me on this mat. So we're going to go down, and I will tuck this up so you can see. when we come down and we're on the ground, what we're looking for, and I'll put my hand up so you can see, what we're looking for is a nice big inhale. So you will see that there is a slight arch here, and you're meant to have a slight arch, okay? You're in a neutral spine. If your back is flat against the ground, that means you've put a tilt in your pelvis, which is putting pressure on your pelvic floor. And when you try to engage your TVAs in this position, you're going to bear down, okay? And we do not want that, because that can cause prolapse, it can cause pelvic floor issues, all sorts of things. So neutral spine, which means you'll have just a little gap here. On the inhale, when you inhale, you want to see your ribs come out to the side, not like this. So this is a bad breathing pattern. If your ribs go up. Did you see how I got an arch in my upper back? My ribs went straight up. That's flaring. That's pulling everything apart. Your diaphragm's going up instead of coming down on the inhale. And then the only way to exhale, if you're starting in this position, is to push down and again put pressure on your pelvic floor. So what we're looking for is an inhale where your ribs come out sideways, your upper back goes down onto the ground, your belly fills. So let's have a look. Goes inhale, we have a big inhale. So my back's down, my ribs have gone out to the side, my belly's full, and then we exhale from our pelvic floor up. So our ribs come down and our pelvic floor comes up. Now, for most people, if you do a short, sharp exhale and go like that, you are going to bear down, and you have the possibility of prolapse, leaking, pelvic floor issues, all sorts of things. So the key is really, when you're starting to isolate these, is to do a really long exhale, not a really short, sharp one. A long exhale for like a good 10 seconds, really thinking about pulling up on your pelvic floor. So if you need to, you could be thinking about doing a Kegel, have a straw in there and you're sucking something up, sucking a marble up, whatever you've been taught to do for bringing that up. We're thinking about the hip bones sort of coming together, and your belly button will go ever so slightly in. You're not pulling it in, you're not sucking it in. It will naturally go slightly in and slightly up. Your upper body should remain relaxed and your ribs should gently come down. Now, one of the biggest things that people do wrong with their upper body is they grip their abs down. So they're using their rectus abdominis and their obliques to grip their abs down. Now, do it with me. Try gripping your abs down. What do you feel? You'll feel pressure going down, okay? So we want that to relax down, no gripping down. You shouldn't see like this big indentation going on there. It's just relaxing down, and this is coming up. If you ever see, and videotape yourself, if you see yourself bulging here, so if you inhale, so everything's coming out, we have a bit of a belly, and then you exhale, but this part goes bigger while this comes down, and this bit here gets bigger over your pant line. That means, again, you're bearing down, okay? So stop and take note and think about coming up. It's all about the exhale coming from your pelvic floor up. So let's try one together. So we're going to get this nice big inhale. And exhale. Exhale all the way to that cough and feel. It should feel firm. This part should be really firm. This should not be too firm. And and you should still have that neutral spine because I don't want you to do this tilt, okay? So we're not bearing down. So, and again, we're going to go in. So nice big inhale. Exhale. And hold. At this point, it should be firm, and you should still be able to breathe in with some rib movement and out. So our first couple of steps will be, can you just engage? So can you go inhale, exhale, feel everything rise, feel it firm, inhale, relax everything again. Remember, on your inhale, you should be feeling some pressure down on your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor should be relaxing. And then on the exhale, the pelvic floor will pull up. You will empty that way. Your ribs will relax down. And the key here is really try for a good 10-second exhale, a really long exhale. If you can't exhale like that long, so you can't get that full 10 seconds, your inhale will not be correct, okay? If your inhale's shallow, and a lot of people end up after pregnancy having a shallow breathing pattern, so they're just like, those people have high stress because they're in a shallow breathing pattern, but it's happened because when you were pregnant, the baby was pushing your diaphragm up, and you know, when you're pregnant, it's really hard to get a good breath, so you end up in quite a shallow breathing habit. And if you're still in that, you won't get a really long exhale because you haven't got a really good inhale. So you just need to keep working on that. And sometimes the engaging of the TVAs has to come second to relearning a breathing pattern. And I know that sounds like, I am never going to get anywhere, but you will. This whole breathing pattern, so start with your hands around here and do a nice big inhale. Your hands should come out and in. Your back should expand and relax, okay? If you can't get a good inhale, you can't get a good exhale. If you can't get a good exhale, you can't get a good pelvic floor contraction. You can't get a good pelvic floor contraction, you can't get a really good TVA contraction. So, a couple of things to see whether you are actually engaging your TVAs. So you would have seen, we've got the, put your hands down here, so you've got your hip bones here, slide them in, do a cough, and when you cough, your TVAs will pop a little bit. Now, depending on how much weight you have around here, you may need to dig in to feel that cough, okay? So dig in, feel free, and then you can keep your hands there and try that TVAs. Now when you engage on that long exhale, I find my TVAs engage at about 4 seconds if I'm doing it naturally through a exhale. So make sure you've got that really long exhale and then feel them engage, the same as what you did when you got the cough. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. So that's number one. Some people find that really hard to do. So number two is, when you're engaged, this whole lower part of your stomach should start feeling a little firmer, okay? So that's another indication. Did you firm your lower abdomen up and this still nice and relaxed, okay? Because if you over-engage, what tends to happen is you lose your TVAs and your rectus abdominis and external obliques start pulling in, okay? So if you find that this part is like solid, right? I've got six-pack ab solid, you've probably lost down here, okay? It's a much smaller movement than you expect, okay? And then the last test is simply lift your legs, right? Can you lift your legs like this And do they feel light? And you have no hip movement going on, no flaring going on like this. Your back's staying neutral and everything works. Because if you have, try it again. If you just relax and try and lift, it's actually really hard to get your leg off the ground. But if you're engaged, they just about float off the ground, okay? So that's a really good test. So you've got, can I feel them? Is this nice and firm? Is this relaxed? Can my legs float off the ground? If you can get those three things, you are probably engaged, whether you feel like you're engaged or not, okay? Now, a couple of troubleshooting. Over-engaging. This does happen. Now, have a think about this. You have a 2-year-old running at you, right? They're running, and they are about to smack straight into your stomach. What do? You tense, right? You go, huh, and you normally hold your breath. But that tensing also puts pressure down on your pelvic floor if you haven't trained your body right. So have a try of that. Just do that whole, huh. Like, honestly, if I did it hard enough, there is a possibility I would get leaking, okay? Because if you haven't had a good inhale first and a good exhale to bring the pelvic floor up, when you do that, your rectus abdominis, so the six-pack, come in like this, and you do this, right? So you crunch, your rectus abdominis come together, you put a whole lot of pressure down this way, and you get bulging, okay? Now, your 2-year-old might be able to come in and smack you really hard and you're not going to have any pain. But if that's your natural reaction, rather than sucking your pelvic floor up and then tensing your TVAs, you are over-bracing if you do that in your everyday moves, okay? So there is a lot to be said about tension to task. So how much tension do you put on your TVAs for the task at hand? Now, if you are lifting a couch, right, and you're moving furniture around, you're going to do a really good inhale and then a full exhale to lift. And you will put a lot of tension in your TVAs, pulling up your pelvic floor and bringing in your other ab muscles as well to do this job, because that was a heavy lift. If you're doing heel slides or the little, whether you call them dead bugs or knee raises or heel lifts, whatever you call them, if you're doing those, you should be able to completely breathe through it. Inhale, exhale, feeling the expansion with every inhale and the contraction again with every exhale without losing any tension in your TVAs, because they don't need to be so strong. It's a small movement. It shouldn't be I am lifting a couch effort. It should be I just need to brace a little bit so I don't dome effort, okay? So really think about that. And sometimes if you really don't know if you're engaging, try the exercise and get somebody to video you or video yourself, because you'll be able to see if you dome, you're not engaging. If you bulge, you're not engaging, you're using your obliques and your rectus abdominis. If your body moves, so your pelvis moves whilst you're doing it, you're not engaged because your pelvis has no stability and your spine has no stability, so your TVAs aren't doing their job. Okay, so sometimes you might need to do some test and learn. You don't know whether you're ready to progress to the next exercise? Try it. Video yourself, watch it. Was I ready? No. Go back a step, try it again a week later. Like, you have to progress. Like, diastasis, it's injury, but it's not a disability, right? It's just like a hamstring strain or a torn Achilles or whatever. Like, you don't see athletes straining their hamstring and then sitting out on the side bench for 3 years, never moving, because it's an injury. They will slowly progress. They will start by seeing if they can weight bear. If they can weight bear, they're going to try that for a few weeks. And then they're going to start trying to walk. And then they're going to start trying a little bit of a run. And they're going to keep progressing until they're through the injury. And the diastasis is the same. For the majority of people, you can regain a functional core, but breathing is key. If you have a shallow breathing pattern, if you're a belly breather, so you only breathe in and out of your belly, you're not going to help yourself at all, because every time you breathe, you're like, push out my diastasis, bring in my diastasis, push out my diastasis. You're not going to be able to get that sorted. If you have that anterior pelvic tilt, again, you've always got that little bit of pressure there. If your ribs are flared, right, you're going to have that pressure there. So everyday movement. So we need to get the breathing and our rib alignment and our back and our hip flexors and everything else doing their job, so that your TVAs can do their job to regain that tension in the linear elbow. All right, so that's what the bonus is going to be all about next week in the Total Core Solution Belly Blast. We're going to be going through different breathing techniques, different exercises for realigning your ribs. Then we're going to go into glute strength, because glute strength directly relates to your pelvic floor. You would have seen that in today's email, and I'll post the video below that I did. But your glutes and your pelvic floor work together. So if your glutes are weak, your pelvic floor needs to do more work. If your pelvic floor needs to do more work, it gets tighter. If your pelvic floor's over tight, it gets weak. If your pelvic floor's weak, not fun, okay? So glute strength is the next one. Then we're also going to do everyday movements, because nursing is hard, carrying your children's hard, unpacking your dishwasher, right? Like all of those things, it takes breathing and it takes coordination. So we're going to go through a lot of that, and then also stretching, because I know like shoulders, this position a lot, right? So we're going to go through a lot of stretching. So it's going to be a pretty exciting, it's a whole program in itself, and it's meant to be done as, we'll do it as a bonus. If you're in your beginners section at the moment, this is the ideal time, because it's going through all those basics of how do I get my breathing right? How do I get my glute strength up? How do I nurse or pick up my children or unpack the dishwasher? And how do I get some stretching? And it's a great time to do it, because you will have gone through all of that with the beginners basics, and you'll have the foundation, and then you can move on to the weights programs and the HIIT workouts and some of the other stuff. Anyway, I'll put the link for the video that I did in the email in case some of you aren't on my email list and didn't get it. And I really hope this was useful. I'm going to take 2 seconds and I'm going to check for if anybody had any questions. So if you do have questions, type them down and I will answer them quickly. So let me just get this up. And all right. All looks good. I will check back in a little while. So if anybody's watching this later, I will check and I will answer any questions that you have. But I really hope that this was helpful in you understanding how you need to get that inhale, be able to get the exhale, to be able to engage your TVAs correctly. Really thinking about not over-engaging, so we're not using our rectus abdominis, not gripping those ribs down on that exhale, because that's going to push the pressure down, and really thinking about the exhale coming from your pelvic floor up. Okay, so empty that way. And if you flared your ribs, that's going to push it down that way, right? So that's going to push things down. All right. I notice that my glutes tighten when I do the TVAs. it's likely that you are doing a slight tilt with it. Try to keep them relaxed, okay? Because what tends to happen is if you're doing that slight tilt, that's that posterior pelvic tilt, so I'm wondering whether you're bearing down instead of pulling up. So you shouldn't, if you're doing a good pelvic floor pull up on that exhale, your glutes shouldn't contract with it, okay? So really be conscious of trying to let that relax. Like, it's a really quite a small movement and nothing else really needs to engage with it. So you're probably putting too much pressure on something which is causing them to contract. All right, can I practice doing this breathing all throughout the day? Okay, so there's two things on that, because that is a fantastic question. When you are isolating your TVAs, so you're doing those 3 sets of 10, they are about an exercise. So that's engage, relax, engage, relax. And to start with, you will need to do it as a breath with a long exhale. And then once you get the movement, you should be able to do it on cue. Once you can do it on cue, so for me, I can kneel here and I can go, I'm engaged, I'm relaxed, engaged, relaxed, okay? So once you get the strength up, it'll be little isolated movements. And those are an exercise, okay? So just like you would do 3 sets of 10 bicep curls, and that's all you would do for the day, that's all you should be doing with your TVAs, okay? So your 3 sets of 10, 3 to 4 times a day, until you have got the strength in them. When you're breathing and engaging your TVAs, so you should be practicing good breathing patterns all day, every day. Now, for a lot of us who are shallow breathers, or I just worked out that I don't allow my stomach to expand on my inhale, and because of that, I suck my diaphragm up. So I'm working through that. Now, for me, I have to physically think about it. So I'll stop and I'll do some really good deep breathing. Exercises each hour, and I'll do 3 or 4 until it becomes natural. Because when it becomes natural, engaging your TVAs on a breath to stay in really good posture is going to be like picking up a pen. I didn't think about my bicep to pick up a pen. I think about my bicep to pick up a really heavy weight, but I don't for a pen. And your TVAs are the same. You shouldn't need to engage them manually with your brain, with your muscles. If you're in good posture with your ribs over your pelvis, you shouldn't need to think about it if you're in a good breathing pattern. And the only time you should is if you're going to pick up your child or doing some type of activity that could be front loading. Pushing a stroller up a hill is a front loading. That's similar to a plank. So in that case, you're going to be thinking about engage my TVAs, get good breath while I'm engaging my TVAs, and walk up the hill. But apart from that, you should allow everything to work naturally. Because like any muscle, you can overwork it. And if it's always engaged, it's going to end up weak. So that's where, if your pelvic floor is always tight, because a lot of people have hypertonic pelvic floors, and that's why they leak. They did so many Kegels, or they're so scared of leaking that they've ended up keeping their pelvic floor tight all the time, that it's weak. So as soon as you've got pressure going there, it's only strong in this position. A little bit of extra bladder pressure, it goes. It's like holding your arm here. You're strong, you're strong, you're strong, and then somebody puts, their hand there and you're, whoo, oh, I lost it, okay? So it's the same with your TVAs. You don't want to engage them all the time. They need to relax, they need to engage, they need to relax, they need to do their natural movement, but like any muscle, you need to strengthen them and give them endurance. I hope that kind of made sense. How do you subscribe to my emails? If you have joined the beginners program, and I send them out weekly, normally on a Friday. If you've joined the beginners program, you'll be on the list. A lot of people don't get the emails sometimes because they go into their spam. If you're haven't joined the beginners program, there is a link for my newsletter to get that specifically, and I will put that below in a sec as well. So I'll put the video that I sent out today below. I'll put the link to my newsletter if you're not getting that as well. Right. So, sorry, I know I didn't answer that. You were 100% correct. So the easiest way for most people to learn to engage their TVAs is lying down on their back. It's because gravity doesn't play, right? So as soon as you sit up or you stand up, you have to also balance the rest of your body and stay upright. So it can be harder to really concentrate on your TVAs. So that's why it sort of suggests being lying down on your back. If you still can't engage lying down on your back, so by being in this position, you still have some tension because of your legs. So if you can get a chair and put them up on a chair so you can really relax your legs too, that's like the totally easiest position to learn to engage your TVAs in. Some people, oddly enough, do find it a little harder, but that's like only thing you need to worry about is your TVAs in that position. Then supine with your legs on the ground, bent. Then sitting up is the next stage, then standing up is the next stage. So you need to be able to do it in all stages because depending on what you're doing in the day will depend on what position you need your TVA strength in. So once you are good lying down, then absolutely do them sitting. Do them whilst you're in the car driving. That's an awesome one for getting the back expansion because you've got your back against the seat. So you can really feel expanding into the seat as well. Do it whilst you're sitting at the dinner table waiting for dinner or after you finish dinner having a conversation. Do it whilst you're standing in the line at the supermarket. Such a small movement, you shouldn't look weird unless you're still having to do that really long exhale. But you know, you can fit these into your day. Once you've learned to isolate it, you can fit them in throughout the day. But learning to do it in isolation and learning to do it as part of a natural breath with that connection breath, it's really important to be able to do both, okay? Just in isolation won't help you with your daily activities. Being able to do it with a really good breathing system is what's going to help you with your daily activities. Right. I think I have answered everybody's questions. So if I haven't, I'll come back to them. I'll put those couple of things in. If you are on the fence for getting that Belly Blast program, I promise you getting the bonus with it will be really worth your while. I will be at a later date selling that information separately because it is going to be so informative. So if you want it now, it'll come as part of the Belly Blast program, but it's only going to be available in the Facebook group for 5 weeks, and then I'm going to be taking it down. So to get the most out of it, you might want to start now, but if you decide to purchase in 2 or 3 weeks, all the videos will still be there. You'll just have to binge on them versus watching one a day. Okay, we'll catch you guys later, and I really hope this was useful. Catch ya.